We are here for a great presentation. We are here, two people who do not need last names, Leah and Nikita. We're going to talk about what does it mean to be AI ready. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Caroline. How's my sound? Doing okay so far? Okay. How's everyone doing? Did people get lunch? Is that a sore subject? We'll figure it out. Okay. Cool. We don't have too much time. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Leah. I am co-founder, CEO of a company called Preql. We have a booth over there and a lot of friendly people, so come talk to us if you have more questions. And I'm very happy to be here with Nikita.
Hey everybody, I hope my mic is also good. My name is Nikita and I have a computer science background, been doing software engineering and have my own tech consultancy. Now helping Leah with achieving our mission in making data a bit more accessible and a bit more easy to interact with.
Okay, so we are going to just roughly go over the agenda before we dive in, but my goal for this session is to give you a sense of what it means to be AI ready. I think people have probably heard this term, and you probably have a lot of pressure to become AI ready as quickly as possible, but what does that mean? How do you actually get the most out of the technology that's available today? And we will create a bit of a roadmap, no matter what your starting point is on the business side and on the technical side, how you can get there quickly. But a bit of audience interaction, the best part, before we jump in. Just to get a feel for the folks who are in the room today, how many people feel pressure or do you feel like you have a mandate in your organization, in the office of the CFO, to implement an AI solution? Okay. I don't know why Matt's struggling with that one. I'm going to say most of you. And, keep your hands up if they were up. And keep it up if you've successfully used AI to transform how things work in the office of the CFO. Okay, talk to these guys after as well. They seem like they know what they're doing. Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit how to make sure that given all of the opportunities of AI, you are the ones leading the charge and you don't miss out on this major advancement, because I think a lot of companies will be defined in this era based on what they can do with AI. And I won't go too deep on this, but just a little bit of history and context. I come from the data world. My background is data engineering. And there's been a lot of good data technology around for a lot of time. So I started working in what we've called like the golden age of the modern data stack, or big data, which was sort of, AI before AI was big data. And there was all this amazing technology, storage and compute became much more quick, scalable, cheap, cost efficient. And a lot of teams were spending a lot of money building their data infrastructure to support the promise of big data. I was a part of that, my co-founder as well. But what we found is that finance was kind of not part of this journey in the way that they should be. There were major advances in technology, but finance was still doing things the hard way in Excel with manual workflows. And our kind of call to action here today is to make sure that with the opportunity of AI, finance is actually leading the charge and doesn't get left out off the playing field. I have a biased take on this, and I'm sure many of you agree because you work in finance, but there's a couple reasons why I think finance needs to lead the charge here. One is just to stay competitive, it's required. But also, finance teams are the most critical business context in any organization. You really know how things should be defined, how things should work, what the nuances of your business is. Any AI solution that doesn't include that is going to fall short. And no shade to IT, I come from the data world, but if they lead this initiative without your input or without you guiding them, you're not going to get what you want at the end of the day. And last thing, finance teams are data teams, and they should be treated as such. You have the most critical data roles in any organization, and now it's time to give you the technology and resources you need. Okay, so very quickly, overview of this AI readiness roadmap that I talked about a little bit. So we're going to talk about how you make the business case for AI initiatives and how to choose the right initial use cases to get your organization excited and to show them success early on. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the data foundations required in order to kind of start this process of standing up AI initiatives. And then we'll talk about the security and governance environment you need in order to do this safely and securely. Cool. So very quickly, right use case. Right now, it's probably easy to get budget for AI, relatively speaking, but you're all finance people, so we don't want you to just ask for budget without being able to prove ROI. I think it's really good to start with small, tangible use cases where you can prove value quickly. Typically, you do this with efficiency gains, so having the same number of people spend less time on manual, tedious tasks, making sure you don't have to hire huge teams as your operations scale, and obviously getting to value that's currently left on the table because your team is doing so much manual work. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Nikita to show us what this looks like in practice.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, now I will walk you through the business side, what we actually need to do, as well as the technical roadmap of what happens after when it gets implemented. I think we all know where AI actually excels at the moment and where we are using it much of the use cases. And the first one is summarization. I think no one likes reading long things, especially when it comes to a 50-page board notes. You want to summarize and give an executive brief. Same comes to creating first drafts. You don't want to do a monthly report from scratch. You would probably outsource it to an AI, but you're not sure if this report is actually right. So you would still review everything and put your last bits on top. And of course, you want to explore your data you have. And for example, you want to get the margins by the product line or anything else when it comes to search, research, and just, yes. And as well as the data automation. Everything that is repetitive, rule-based, or just processual, everything can be automated as long as you can approve that everything is right at the end and give your thumbs up. But there are also the things that AI is not really good at. And first one is about providing reliable answers that can be also repeatable, so that every time when you ask the same question, you'll get the same answers. Not something that is close enough, but actually the same and the right one. And the second one is the context. It's very painful to always provide all the details about you, about your department to every chat whenever you started. So it would be really nice if it would already know everything you know about your company and just access it in a matter of seconds, because the business tools are usually living in the heads of the employees or in the heads of your analysts, and why not just giving them away to the brain of the company? That's why just putting an AI on top of your data doesn't really work for finance, and it needs something in between. And the solution is actually pretty simple. You just need to keep your existing systems you already have that do the calculation to keep everything deterministic, but at the same time, you still want to get your data fast, and you put your AI on top of these systems so that every time you can get the access to your data pretty fast, but at the same time, the data will be reliable. And I think a good example will be something you probably had experienced before, is when your FP&A team is just drowning in requests and you want to get, let's say, a monthly reporting support. And usually the issue is, first of all, of course, in the efficiency, because your analysts are busy with generating the reports instead of actually making sense of these reports. At the same time, sometimes you need a lot of insights, like today, maybe now, or 1 hour ago, or 1 month ago. Sometimes you don't need anything, so you cannot really hire your way out of this to scale up and scale down the team, or working with freelancers that you need to onboard. And at the same time, as Leah was also saying, that sometimes you just have a lot of value literally in your folders of your cloud, but you never have access or just time, to access to your time to make reason out of this value and analyze it, because it's always not a priority. And I think another good example of like, AI doing things wrong is when you ask the same question, but it just doesn't get it always right, and sometimes the numbers will be different for different reasons. But I think this picture is a good example. And how do we actually make AI trustworthy? We introduce a semantic layer, the architecture in between, where AI still handles the language part so that everyone can easily query the data, talk to the agent. But at the same time, there is something stable in between, something that preserves the information about the organization, the way your business rules are defined, and can always address the same data every time deterministically, and at the same time using your systems that are already there to calculate the results. And this way you always get the same question, the same answer every time when you ask it. At the same time you have an audit trail for every number up till the source where it comes from. Either it's your ERP system or a data warehouse. You will always know that this came exactly from there, how fresh it is, and how percentage-wise valid this data is, how accurate it is. And at the same time, everything is of course approved by people, so it never gets deployed if there is no approval from the relevant stakeholders, either from the data team or from the business department and so on.
I'm just curious if people in this room have heard of a semantic layer before. Have you come across this phrase? Okay, cool. So we'll sort of go slow, but I think it'll be useful. And at a very high level, you can think about it as the layer in between the AI, the chatbot, the LLM, however you want to think about it, and your data that helps structure everything to guarantee that you get the correct answers reliably out of AI. So it's sort of that business context layer that is an intermediary between the two. It has things like definitions, how you think about your quarters, which might be bespoke. All of these things that are nuances of your business that you want to encode and not leave up to chance when you ask an LLM. Is that fair, Nikita?
And also being understandable by anyone in your department, because you don't need to ask a data person and wait for a week until they can write a dashboard or a query to finally get this data out of your data systems. But instead you can just talk to an LLM in a plain English without providing much of a context about you, about your department, and this will always get it right whenever you ask it. And I think another good example is a revenue term that may mean different for different divisions of the company. For example, for the treasury or for the lending division of a banking organization, it will mean a bit of a different thing, but it's still something that can be encoded in this semantic layer so that the answers will all be right. And I think the best way to show this is to,
Hold that for a sec.
Show this slide. So it all starts from a chat, like any experience. For example, here we can see that the finance manager asks what kind of data we can track and analyze about loans. And you can see all the metrics, all the dimensions you can drill down into.
I know it's small text, so I can help translate a little bit.
I think I can zoom it in a bit. Not sure if I can zoom it in.
I see all of the metrics and dimensions available to me, but there's a specific question I have in mind, which is about my refinance rate. And I didn't see anything specifically, so I ask this chat agent, can we add a definition of refinancing that then I can query and expose to the business? So that's what it's doing now. It's looking through everything that we already have modeled, and where it doesn't exist, it's actually going to look at the underlying data, see where we can source that, and create a more robust definition that meets my need here.
Yeah, now it's creating the definition. It takes some time, but you can see the traces of how it discovers all of them.
Great. So now it's telling me that I have this origination type, which will tell me if it's a refinance or a new loan. And now I can ask it to create this metric refinance rate because my CFO, maybe one of you, is asking for that, and I need to provide an answer that I can trust. And the person doing this part of the process is kind of the data owner. We wouldn't have any analysts in the organization making changes to definitions. That would all have to go through a pretty robust approval process. But let's say I'm the owner of lending metrics and I want to expand upon them to meet the reporting needs of my business, then it will know based on my role what I can do and make the appropriate changes. And what you're seeing here is actually a mapping of all of your data that exists and this semantic layer that we mentioned. So all of the business definitions, how they relate to one another, where that data is coming from. Oh, I'm talking slower than the demo. But now I've made that new definition available so that it can be queried by any analyst in the business who has access to it.
And now we can actually see how it's being queried.
So this refinance rate, which was just an idea that I had a second ago, I added it to our semantic model, and now from now on, anytime that the people who have access to this metric ask a question, what is our refinance rate, they know that they're getting the right answer because it's referencing my definition that's maintained in this semantic model.
And you don't need to say that this is the loan reference rate or mention your division, specify all the details like you would do when you work with a junior person. You just provide the minimum, and for this minimum you always get the most accurate data, which is always the same and predictable.
So is semantic layer making a little more sense? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think now you probably have questions about the security and how reliable this all is. And there are usually 3 questions every CFO asks. So the first one is, where does the data actually go? And the data doesn't go anywhere. It stays in your systems because everything will be deployed in your infrastructure. And we actually don't see any data. It literally just works there in a black box for us. The second thing is about the security and access control. You already have your own permission system, your own probably Okta instance, like everyone is using, or something else. And we pull this data from out of these systems so that we can imply who is actually having access to the certain parts of the data. And at the same time, it's still being approved by you at the end. And of course, everything is auditable, so you can always see who changed what, and everything is version controlled, so nothing goes live until we actually have this approval from the people who are responsible for this part of the system. And at the same time, you can always export the audit logs and provide it to any auditors or anyone who is interested in them. And now let me get back to Leah for the implementation.
Okay, so when you think about the state of your data and how to make it AI ready, you probably feel like you've got years of work ahead of you. And that's kind of the old way of thinking, that I need to hire a bunch of data engineers or I need to migrate ERPs 3 times before my data will be ready. And we're here to tell you your data is, it can be on its way much quicker than you think with the technology that's available. So one thing is that we can centralize all of your data for you. Even if your systems don't speak to each other, we're creating this consolidated data layer across them. We can do that really quickly. And then with the help of these AI agents that have been crafted by Nikita and his team, we can help you build that context layer, that semantic layer on top of all your data that creates this kind of error-free safety zone, let's call it, on top of all your data. So then we can put an LLM on top of it or integrate it with another tool on the other side and get to those really exciting AI use cases that everyone is chasing. I would caution you not to skip to the shiny thing too quickly. You're right to think that data is the foundational issue that you need to solve first. But again, it can happen much quicker than you think. So in addition to having this semantic layer that we maintain through these agentic workflows where you don't need to write code or anything like that, we also have data cleaning workflows that do the same. And our team is really excellent at getting this up and running in a 3-month process, which is probably not the estimates that you're providing your CEO when they ask for this.
Also, one more thing on the data cleaning, just to expand on this a bit. Not everyone has a centralized data lake, a data team with lots of data analysts who work on this. Sometimes you don't have anything except of lots of spreadsheets that are stored in many different folders and never accessed again. This is also something we cover. So we help you to automatically import all the spreadsheets and build up the data store, the data pipelines out of these spreadsheets, basically reverse engineer them so that then you or someone from your data team can just approve it, and then this pipeline will be basically live. We also automate the infrastructure deployment, so basically everything, not only about querying the data, but also about actually centralizing and provisioning this data is also a part of something we are doing.
So just a couple of closing thoughts, and I think we'll actually have time for questions, which is great. But I think the key to the success of any AI strategy is to really align what AI is best at with your use case. And again, information retrieval, summarization, things like that, where it can really excel, and not actually doing computation that needs to be 100% reliable every time. For that, you need the semantic layer as that intermediary. So if that's all we leave you with, I hope that that was a useful concept. And then, of course, security and governance, think about this consideration from day one. It's a lot easier to sort of modify controls as you go than to put them onto an unruly system. So if this is something that's top of mind for you all, which I think it is because you're at this conference and there's a lot of AI chatter, and I know you all are feeling the pressure to get it right, come chat with us. We have a booth right down there, and we're kind of data people by background, but we love partnering with finance folks who are at the center of their businesses, and we really want to empower you to lead AI. So thank you so much.
Thank you.